awarded for important scientific breakthroughs such as the discovery of penicillin. And making the history books for chemistry this year, the prize has gone to the developers of molecular machines.
Sounds pretty fascinating. But let's also spare a thought for the very dedicated research being done by those on the fringes of science and recognised with the Ig Nobel. So who better than to talk us through this year's recipients than Dr. Carl, our very own Ig Nobel Prize winner.
That's right, the Ig Nobels are for research that cannot or should not be done, or stuff that makes you laugh and learn. And in my case, I did the groundbreaking research into belly button fluff and why it's almost always blue. And as a result, Harvard University flew me all the way from Australia to Harvard at my own expense. They would not insult me by offering me tawdry money. That's how highly respected the Ig Nobels are.
Well, what have we had on offer this year with the 2016 prizes? I understand in one case we've got rats in very tiny trousers.
We have rats in tiny trousers because an Egyptian endocrinologist, andrologist, reproductive person was curious about what effect did synthetic clothing have on male fertility sexual activity. So they made up tiny little Beatrix Potter type trousers for the little rats. It wasn't as though the rats ran into human trousers. He made up little trousers specifically for the rats. If they were totally synthetic, sexual activity went way down. Half synthetic, half natural, went down a bit. Totally natural, wool or cotton, normal sexual activity.
Incredible. I mean, can we infer much from the sample size, though, that was taken on board?
Rats are not humans. We've got to do it again for humans and see what happens.
Exactly. Interesting, but still, there was a correlation there between different types of fabric and activity.
But he was putting it down to the voltage. He was measuring electric fields of 400 volts per centimetre, which I was thinking, why don't they discharge? Because we humans are all wet and squishy. Don't know. Have to do follow-up research on that one.
All right then. OK, well, let's have a look at some of the other research that's made it into this year's Ig Nobels. Let's have a look at the prize for psychology, which was to do with behaviour patterns to do with age and lying.
Yeah, like many things in life, like strength, for example, resistant to disease, etc., there are many U-shaped patterns. So in this study, they found out that people would tell heaps and heaps and heaps of lies when they were kids, the least numbers of lies when they were adolescents or young adults, and then when they got older, they didn't care and they started lying again.
Really, can we get to the bottom of how this is age-related? Is there something happen with our brains or our personality?
Oh, anything you do with the brain is more complicated than anything to do with the universe and the Big Bang. Forget the brain. No, it's much too hard.
OK, but still, something of note there, something interesting. Let's have a look at the prize then for economics. And this touched on marketing and brand personality.
So brand personality goes to the fact that this is a theory going back to the 50s, saying, well, you look at a brand and you think, that soup is confidence, but that masking tape is like a strong farmer. And so you give these personalities. And the theory was made up by a guy who totally invented the totally fraudulent theory of subliminal advertising. You might have heard that one. Right. You go to the movie and every 50th or 1000th frame is drink something cola. And you say, I don't know why at admission by one cola. Totally made up. He made it totally up. He didn't even do the experiment, he just made it up. So he also came up with the brand theory, and so they have these questions, and all you have is a choice of saying, yes, I think that the soup is either slightly confident or very confident. You have no option of saying, I don't think it's not at all confident. And so, on one hand, this theory is all the way through marketing, brand personality, but on the other hand, it's sort of built on sand. So these New Zealand psychologists said, well, let's go and test on something that probably doesn't have a personality. Let's go working with rocks. And at the end they say, well, probably this theory of brand marketing is built on sand and it has no validity. On the other hand, the advertising industry will still use it.
So it's not going to stop them.
No.
All right, well, let's have a look at one more then, shall we? And this one, I think, the Ig Nobel for Physics, it was looking at light polarisation and flies, their behaviour, because they're picking up things that we can't see, can't they?
Yeah, so this was a Hungarian team, and they looked at horse flies. So with regard to horses, you've got horses of different colours, and you think about the white horse. Oh, bummer. I'm white as a horse, and therefore a lion can see me really easily. And number two, I'm white as a horse, so I'll get skin cancer. Why on earth would horses be white? And they looked at the polarised light coming off, which the horse fly uses to find the horse. And for various fancy physics, fancy, it turns out that there's very little polarised light, and so white horses visible to us, virtually invisible to horseflies. So that was one half of their research. And the other half of their research was once again looking at polarised light, this time with dragonflies. And so you've got the dragonflies and they're looking for water. And the polarised light coming off water is virtually identical to the polarised light coming off black polished tombstones in graveyards. And so they land on the tombstone and think, I'm having a drink now, gee, I'm still thirsty, and they just gradually dehydrate to death thinking, I know I should be drinking, but I'm not getting anything. So if you remember that song, you know, the Monster Mash, instead of being a splash, it's a graveyard smash.
Oh, Dr. Carl. Well, on that note, we might wrap things up, shall we? But the Ig Nobels, they're very fascinating. They're quite humorous in a number of instances, but do they serve any real purpose?
Yes, they do. Last year, an Australian winner worked out how to, wait for it, unboil an egg. So you've got an egg, it's got gloopy, wetty stuff inside it, and then you boil it, and the proteins all go mangle like strands of barbed wire. Mate, you can't unboil it. He worked out how to unboil it. And people say, well, that's cute, but it's useless. But that technology is now being used to make incredibly complicated and unusual molecules. If you think of pharmacy, for certain rare diseases, individual doses of drugs can cost thousands of dollars, and you need 3 of them a day, per dose, or tens of thousands of dollars. And his technology from Flinders University, it can bring the price way, way, way down. And in fact, it could earn Australia more money from smartness than from digging dirt out of the ground. So maybe the Ig Nobels, let's big it up for the Nobel Prizes, but let's leave last laugh to the Ig Nobels.
It sounds like a good idea. Dr. Carl, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Look, I think we'll just stick to just straight out boiling an egg and leave it at that. That's